Folks, welcome. It's good to have you today. It truly is. I'm glad you're with us. I hope that we can do something that will bless you and maybe exhort you and give you some courage to stand in these confusing and wicked times. As we go through current events in a minute, we're going to find some things that I just marvel at how we have deteriorated as a nation, as a people, as a world, into what we become. We're worse than animals. We truly are worse than animals. Most generally, you don't find animals killing their own, do you?
No.
You just don't see two bucks trying to bring forth a fawn, do you?
Nope.
So these are things that, humans are worse than animals because when they sin, and it's because it is sin, our creative mind creates more evil, does it not? Mm-hmm. I want to start on the lighter side, if you don't mind. I enjoy a good laugh once in a while. I look in the mirror every morning and just get one. Because I remember when I was a kid, you'd go to the store with $1, come back with 3 bags of chips, 2 candy bars, and a cold drink. Now they have cameras everywhere. I remember.
Oh dear.
That came from our son.
A pastor goes to get to the dentist for a set of false teeth. The first Sunday after he gets his new teeth, he talks for only 8 minutes. The second Sunday, he talks for only 10 minutes. The following Sunday, he talks 2 hours and 48 minutes. The congregation had to mob him to get him down from the pulpit. They asked him, what happened? The pastor explained the first Sunday his gums hurt so bad he couldn't talk for more than 8 minutes. The second Sunday, his gums hurt so bad he couldn't talk more than 10 minutes. But the third Sunday, he put his wife's teeth in his mouth by mistake. Then ain't laughing. But anyway.
Thank you.
Oh, you gotta have some time fun together. Brothers and sisters should laugh with each other,
I
right?
got it. Have fun together.
So anyway, Romans chapter 6. We'll read verse 7 and get into some current events. Romans 6. We're going to do a teaching next hour on the Christian duty to judge. I said the Christian duty to judge. And we have failed that miserably. That's why we have the evil around us. The church has quit doing anything except preaching the social gospel. But it says in chapter 6, verse 16, now pay attention. This is for everybody, Christian and non-Christian alike. Know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. He's talking here to the church of Rome. He's telling them, don't you know that if you live in sin, you're not Christ? You're not in Christ? Isn't that what he's saying? Mm-hmm. If you remain in sin, you're not walking in Christ. Christ did not save you in your sins. He saved you from your sins. Comprende? So when he said, made very clear, if you're still serving sin in the flesh, mm-hmm. you're walking with Satan. It's just that easy. It's not complicated, is it, Steve?
No.
So let's look at some news real quick. I think this is interesting. These are these states with the highest and lowest STD rates in America per 100,000 people. STD rates, sexually transmitted disease rates. Alaska is the worst. And for the first time ever, I'm glad to be on the bottom. West Virginia is the least. So we finally made a list of the bottom. It's a good thing.
We like to be 50.
Yeah, we like 50 on this one, we do. And just out of curiosity, Ohio is 19, so I thought you'd let you know that. So anyway.
I feel like I need to take a bath now.
Anyway, folks, we have they're not guests. Down from Ohio with us, Addison and his wife Sure with us today, and it's so good to have them, it truly is. Now this is some good news. They had a straight pride parade in Boston. And the police actually pepper sprayed and arrested some sodomites and lesbians for interfering with the parade.
Wow.
Yeah, they did.
So
but now
they did a job.
They did a job. But Mayor Martin Walsh said, as I said, a straight pride parade won't overshadow the tremendous role Boston plays in the national movement for equality. So they did stop the people from messing the parade up, but they said we still are for equality. Well, okay. Then straight pride. We should have a straight pride month, shouldn't we? Is something wrong with that?
There probably is one.
And Monday night, I have a guy on from California, Don Grundeman, who had the first straight pride gathering in California a couple weeks ago. He's going to be sharing what happened to him in California. So it's interesting. Some people are starting to see what's happening, starting to actually stand up. Thank God they're standing up
Amen.
and saying enough is enough.
Well, Kelly and I are going to Forest Festival, and we are already having our shirts made up. We're going to get it made. It says, straight, proud husband. Hers says, straight, proud wife. And it says in our marriage, one man, one woman.
Yep. And only in America, this is a good thing. A former North Carolina sheriff's deputy is suing this police department for claiming he was fired for following the Billy Graham rule. Under the Graham rule, now also associated with Vice President Mike Pence, men decline to be alone with a woman other than their wife. Manuel Torres, 51, said his sincere religious belief motivated his refusal to ride with a female trainees in a patrol car, so he should not have been fired. Mm-hmm. Good for him.
He done the right thing.
Yes, he did. White visitors to former slave plantations are objected to travel site reviews to the tour's heavy emphasis on slavery. One reviewer who toured the McLeod plantation in South Carolina complains of being subjected to a lecture aimed to instill guilt. Another writes that we didn't come to hear a lecture on how the white people treated slaves. You know, that was bad. I'm not giving an excuse, but I didn't do it. I wasn't even alive then, were you?
In fact, my ancestors came from Germany. They didn't grow up in this country until after slavery.
My ancestors came from Ukraine, and we were slaves before the blacks were slaves.
That's true.
Yeah, there was a lot of white slavery in America.
Yeah,
Even during the time of the black slavery.
yeah. Even
From the
before,
early, even in the mid 1600s, at the time of the Civil War, there was white slavery in this country.
25 families now control almost $1.4 trillion in wealth. The world's wealthiest family, the Waltons at Walmart, they don't need my money. That's why I'm not going to them. Have grown their fortune to $39 billion, from $39 billion to $191 billion since June 2018. Imagine that. An increase of 4 million every hour. I could live in 1 hour.
I can't comprehend it.
No.
I'd like to live at 10 minutes of it.
And this says, now this is good. Modern slaves are not in chains, they are in debt.
That's exactly right.
Wow. Ben Franklin said, I'd rather go to bed without dinner than to rise in debt.
Borrow is straight to the lender.
That's what the book says.
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments in time? Now, you know you speak up. I'm just going through pretty quick, don't much time.
When you was talking about the slavery and the black problem and things of this nature, Cheryl and I just watched a video last night in South Africa where the blacks, South Africans, are upset with migrants coming in, and they're now dousing them with gasoline.
Really?
Lighting them on fire. We watched a video last night.
White migrants or black ones? Or
Black,
and they're burning them.
Well, they said they're committing a lot of crimes, migrants, and the police aren't doing anything.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
They're vigilantism, yeah.
It wasn't all bad. Seth Craven was sure he'd miss his son's birth. The National Guard sergeant flown from Afghanistan to Philadelphia, but his connecting flight to Charleston, West Virginia was canceled because of a storm, and all the rental cars were sold out. His wife, Julie, was due to have a C-section the next day. Then Charlene Vickers, another stranded flyer, heard his story and offered Craven a seat in her car. They drove for 8 hours, and Craven, 26, arrived just in time to see baby Cooper born. If it wasn't for Charlene, he said, I never would have made it. There are some good things out there.
There's still those out there.
Yeah, there are. Susan Cook and Patrick Riordan walked into a Payless shoe store looking for one reasonably priced pair of shoes. They walked out with 247 pairs for families in need. The Payless chain declared bankruptcy earlier this year, and the Hamilton Township, New Jersey store was slowly selling off its inventory at $2 a pair. Why if we buy everything in here? Asked Riordan. They got the entire stock for $1 a pair, and the couple donated the haul to Woman's Space, a charity that helps families affected by domestic violence. We're not rich, said Cook, but you think about making such a difference for 247 people, and that's worth it.
Well,
That was a sheep on the right hand?
Yeah.
Matthew 25?
Yep. Only in America. Some U.S. churches are aiming and training their congregation to fight back against an active shooter. Fellowship of the Parks Church in Fort Worth encourages off-duty officers to attend services fully armed and has recently hired the company's sheepdog defense group to train congregants to active shooter defense. 10 years ago, this industrial just was not a thing, said SDG founder David Riegel. I mean, sanctuary means a safe place. And I encourage, as everybody knows, to carry arms, especially in places where everywhere you go, but here also. You know that. Michigan State University is advising employees to avoid saying no problem to customers in a presentation called Inclusive and Culturally Sensitive Service. You hear that? Inclusive and Culturally Sensitive Service. An MSU official said that no problem is a trigger that could lead a customer to believe that they could be a problem. It's more common, the official said, to say you're welcome. Go figure. What doesn't fit anybody more? If you want children to keep their feet on the ground, put the responsibility on their shoulders.
Good one.
That's a good one, ain't it? They now have come up with something that makes your back not hurts bad. I'll make this up. Japanese researchers designed a wearable robotic tail that could help humans keep balance better, said Jesse Ying to CNN.com. The biomimicry-inspired tail is about 3 foot long. It's covered in vertebrae-like plates that can contain sensors and has 4 artificial muscles to respond to the wearer's movement. So you wear that tail, it keeps you balanced better. And they said you don't hurt your back. You don't hurt your back as much bending over.
How do you go to the bathroom?
Lift your tail up, boy.
I'm talking about sitting on the toilet.
Now this we knew, but I just hadn't counted the numbers. This is sad. Military suicides top record despite government's best efforts. Have you ever called the VA? I'm a veteran. You ever called the VA oldies get anything? They have when they say if you have an emergency, course 911. If you think about suicide, call this number, whatever. 7,300 vets a year kill themselves. See that what you hear at the battlefield is bad, but many more die when you get home.
Some of them die over at the vet center, over at the hospital.
11 of them so far we know of. According to the polls, looks like if the election was held today, Biden would win. So I'll share that with you. I for one, I think I want to go for the Cherokee. What was her name? This article is right. This is something we don't think about because we live in it. If the debt machine was turned off, the U.S. would immediately plunge into a horrifying depression. Now, I don't have time to read all this, but the Federal Reserve has to keep us in debt and making more debt to keep the economy moving. Because everything we do is on debt. The so-called money you carry in your pocket is debt money. It's not money. You all know that, right? It's fiat. But if they don't print more of it and keep putting it into the machine, the economy collapse.
Yeah, but won't the economy eventually collapse?
Of course it will. Of course it will. But they're doing everything they can to keep from going under. I do know that gold went up from 12.15 ounce to 15.15 ounce the last couple of years.
Silver went up big time. It's
It
almost
did.
$20.
Yep.
But you know, it's just like lies. You know, once you tell a lie, you have to tell more lies to cover the lie. Once you're in debt, if you don't clear your debt, you need more debt
To cover the
your
debt.
debt.
That's like paying a credit card to credit card.
Yeah.
Well, what's crazy is a government that has the power to print money. Why did we ever go in debt?
Why do they need our money? They print it. Why do they keep take ours from us? They don't need our money. They print all they want. Anyway, California is starting something on this. There's a guy running for president named Andrew Yang. He's a Democrat running for president. He wants to do. He wants to give everybody in the country $1,000 a month, except people 65 and older. I'm serious. I'm not making it up. But he started in California with an experiment, and he gives $500 a month to selected people they picked out for this. And this lady gets it. Her name is Garza. So I pay him $150 a month out of this $500 for a cell phone, $100 or so to pay off her dog's veterinary bills. She spends the rest on her 2 grandsons. Now listen to what she said. Now listen, because this is the mentality of people. This is how we got this mess in the first place. She said, I've never been able to do that. I thought it was the coolest thing. They thought Social Security was the coolest thing too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Who said, and it says, I like it because I feel more independent, like I'm in charge. You feel independent because somebody else feeds you?
Clothe you?
I really have something that's my own. Really? You understand the mindset of this? You get what you're saying?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm independent because somebody's feeding me. Doesn't that make you more of a slave?
Completely, you are.
Well, it'd be more independent then too if somebody gives me a house or an apartment to live in,
Sure. Yeah.
and pays my water bill and utility bills.
I got to hurry through these, but in California, it's so bad, in Sacramento, the capital, that businesses have had to close down and leave where they were because so many homeless were in the streets they couldn't get in the business even. I'm serious. It's a place where he said one homeless drug addict entered his store at 95% naked and damaged $400 worth of china in his store. But they said they have to clean up. One guy has to go in early to clean up the needles and the poop and all that off the sidewalk. This is in California. Once the one of the most prosperous states in one commies in the world. Period.
But Seattle, Washington, right behind them.
Oh, yeah. Coming soon, the Kaiser Society coming soon. The liberal world currency. Now this is a Bank of England. I'm not going to make this up. Talk about a world currency. It's not a currency. It's a digital currency called the Libra that they are going to try to make a central means of exchange for the world. I'm not making this up. This is all news. It's all happening. Is this fulfilling prophecy?
Yes.
We already have a one-world currency now. The dollar bill.
Oh well, yeah. Well, it's losing its top popularity though.
Mm-hmm.
It said winter to feature polar coaster mix of frigid temperatures. Now the Farmer's Almanac calls things a year in advance. I don't know how to do that. They said we'd have a wet spring and a hot dry summer, and we've had that. All right. Now they're saying it's going to be extra cold in January and February. So they said get ready for really frigid temperatures in January and February in this part of the country.
Florida.
So
After the
Get another
hurricane
blanket
season,
and curl up on the couch.
I'm telling you all this to show you that these things are not. These are prophetic. This isn't normal. Kansas and Oklahoma have had 65 earthquakes in the last 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that strange how Christ said this would happen? And the people don't want to hear this, I'm sure. Vegetarians have a higher risk of stroke than meat eaters. Because I wonder why God made meat to eat.
I remember H.G. Wells said everyone should be. They wanted. Of course, he was a Fabian socialist and a social engineer and a social Darwinist and you name it. He, very smart man though. But he said we want to get people off meat so they'll be more docile. So
That's
control.
true. That's true. Vegans generally are too. You ever notice that? Yeah. San Francisco board has rebranded convicted felon. They no longer call them convicted felons. They call them justice-involved people.
Oh my gosh.
Utah has a children's entrepreneur market where children can make things, go in and sell them across the counter. Well, the city found out, the state found out, and they went in and said made them pay sales tax on that and income tax. They had to file forms of what they made. Even if you didn't make anything, you still had to pay some tax on for being there.
Well, that'll teach them.
Yep, they sure will. Google is burying alternative health sites to protect people from dangerous medical advice. So Google doesn't want any news out about alternative to health, so they just take them off.
Google is the gatekeeper.
Sacramento, the Democrats finally passed a bill, unanimously by the way, that will make mandatory vaccines for children and adults.
Over my dead body.
See, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm really not. This is for real. And can you not see Satan's noose closing?
Yeah.
Feds order Apple and Google to hand over names of 10,000 plus users of a gun scope app.
I seen that the other
The
day.
federal order calls for release on data of users to download apps used to calibrate scopes from a major manufacturer. Own a rifle, got a scope to go with it. The government might soon know who you are, where you live, and how to reach you. Because Apple and Google have been ordered. Now pay attention. These are put through private companies, right? Mm-hmm. Ordered by the government to hand over names, phone numbers, and other ID data of at least 10,000 users of a single gun scope app Forbes had discovered. It's an unprecedented move. Never before has a case been disclosed in which American investigators demanded personal data of users of a single app from Apple and Google. So that not only are they buying guns, if you get a scope, now they're going to check on you.
Well, Butch, they would have turned it over anyway. This
Oh,
is
sure
just
they
to
would.
cover them, that the government's ordering it. Right.
Now, nobody has to listen to what I'm saying, do what I'm doing, but I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, that's a relief. after
Walmart
47
is
years.
going to stop selling ammunition for assault rifles and handguns, and no more open carry in the stores. Walgreens followed suit, CVS followed suit, Kroger's trying to go the same way. And I'm saying this out of love. I will not go there anymore. I will not spend a dime in the store. Never have for a long time.
Probably in
Sam's
20
Club,
years
the
you've
same
been
thing.
there, less than 5 times, I'm sure.
Walmart and Sam's Club are both the same thing. If you support this, you're supporting the demise of your own liberties. Do what you want. They also support homosexuals.
There
They
was
have
a
one
story
day
that
that all
Hannity
the
had on Fox News just coming out and exploded on Walmart. Talking truths about the use of slave labor over in the Arab countries. I mean, not Arab countries, Asian countries. But the truth is, Walmart expanded because of our greed.
Sure.
And it was not Walmart's fault.
Knocked a lot of local businesses out.
We personally, each and every one of us, is involved in taking out mom and pop stores.
We saved a dollar and knocked them out of business. We did. We did. We did. I raised my hand.
And then they love to move into an area and they'll run everybody else out of business so they can have all the business.
Now NASCAR is going against black rifle ads. In other words, the so-called assault rifle. NASCAR says they'll not allow any more of that on their business areas. Mormons said don't carry guns to church.
Oh, and there's a young man, well, we know he was around when he was born. Had his mom and dad in youth camp, but he pastors a little church over next to Carnfell's Ferry at home.
Speak up.
And Butch Butch wanted to know what time our services started because he's been wanting us to come over. And that'll be different. I was just thinking it's different.
It's Newer Baptist
into-
Church, anyway.
But it's a little Baptist church. Aaron Evans is the pastor, and he said, "Will it offend anyone if I'm carrying?" And Aaron said, "No, I do."
So
That's
the pastor
pastor,
carries,
but
so, you know,
he's also
he's
a law
cop,
enforcement. But he really have Facebook. Look him up. He does some really short, like 5-minute or less morning devotions, I think, usually, and he calls it pretty good. And he preached Aaron's funeral, and he didn't put him where the family wants him to be put. You know.
Young boy in Colorado Springs, Loveland. Nathan Myers' name went to his mommy to a shooting range to practice shooting a pistol. He got kicked out of school.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. Got kicked out of school for target practice. Now they reinstated him, but that's not the point. The point is they kicked him out of school because somebody said he was shooting a gun and it scared him.
Well, the school also made I read the same article, but the school made a point about sending an email to every single parent in that school.
It's all about feelings, Butch.
Oh yeah.
Feelings.
Is Silicon Valley building a Chinese-style social credit system? Now, I haven't got time to fill all this, but companies in the United States, and more specifically Silicon Valley, are building a social credit system for individuals. Much like the social credit system Communist China uses to control its population, this authoritarian control, different in one way, is being done by corporations as opposed to government. Now, I make a point here. Government and corporation are the same thing. Okay?
Joan Vion shows
Yeah,
that.
she did.
Public-private partnerships.
So make no mistake. The corporation building a social credit system in the U.S. are already another arm of the government. Right on the money. All the companies participating in these types of behavior controlled want one thing. It's the same thing the government wants: power over people. That's Google, Facebook, YouTube, all of them. Okay. Now, our savior of the country, Donald Trump. Remember, you ever heard of him? The chosen one. Yeah. Have y'all seen that clip yet?
You're going to see it.
Okay, you see in Italy, yeah. Trump administration considering social credit score system to determine who can buy a gun. I'm not making this up. Says that the proposal is part of an incentive to create a Health Advanced Research Projects Agency, HARPA.
Like DARPA.
Yes, which will be located inside the Health and Human Services Department, reports the Daily Caller. The new agency will have a separate budget, and the president will be responsible for appointing its director. Hopper would employ breakthrough technologies with high specificity and sensitivity to early diagnoses of neuropsychiatric violence, including Apple Watches, Amazon Echo, and Google Home. Now you see why I don't have those in my house. So anyway, this is for real. Our president wasn't going to save the country, remember? Oh yeah, make America great again.
When
anyway.
it's going to start the revolution?
Yeah. Washington Post bans employees from using social media to criticize sponsors. Now please let this sink in. Washington Post is a private business. They have employees. They told the employees, if you criticize any of our sponsors, we'll fire you, even in your own private time. It says up and to including termination of employment. In addition to restricting criticism, the Post new policy encourages employees to snitch on one another.
That's one of the things that technology has brought about is that your company can ask you to be on call when you're on your vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We go to New Jersey to the beach, and you see all these people on the beach doing business. So they're slaves because of this technology that could have been used to make us more free, but it's being used to.
Oh, but Phil, I went to Vietnam to keep us free.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, China will have one street camera for every 2 people next year. Now we're saying that's terrible. That's China. Look around you down the streets.
Well, look at
Every intersection.
They'll
Go to your grocery store.
Every intersection.
They're everywhere.
Go into your grocery store, the department stores, Dollar General. Cameras everywhere.
American Airlines launches. Now we talked about this so long ago. Phil Hudock and Dick, how long was it? We went without a driver's license. 10, 12 years.
It was 2000, before 2000.
Yeah.
So it's been 19 years.
We didn't have a driver's license for years. And I got in the car, went down the road. I didn't care. I was stopped by cops and got tickets. They didn't care.
He called me from Craigville one day and he said, I'm going into the mouth of the beast. He said, be in prayer. They've got a checkpoint over there. So I went straight to prayer. And later he called.
I called Dick too. Then.
And he said he got right up there. And they motioned.
They didn't see. They didn't even stop.
They did not see him.
I didn't right on too.
They motioned the vehicle behind him. I mean, they did not. Their eyes didn't focus on him. He wasn't there.
But I got stopped in Marlington, going to Marlington one day with a speeding ticket, and the cop read about me in the Charleston paper.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, no big deal. But I'm saying we fought facial recognition because we knew it was going. We knew. We told the state it's going to go all over the country and around the world. Oh no, we promised it won't leave the state. Didn't that still say?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Mm-hmm. And now obviously it's true because American Airlines launches facial recognition to board passengers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now how do they know it's you without that idea on their database?
American Airlines, that sounds real.
Priority, Minority Report. The TSA is going to launch facial recognition starting at Las Vegas Airport. Now, folks, please pay attention to this. This is part of a beast system. Please understand that your face is unique as your thumbprint. And know that is a number of a man. Right?
The biometrics, yeah.
That's you. You are a man, right? Or a woman. That's what number of mankind. The number that you have, that you put on your driver's license and other IDs, are going into Interpol worldwide, and everywhere you go in the world, they'll know who you are by your number. Does that pretty much fit to mark the beast?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The numbers are measured through your face.
Exactly.
It's not a.
It's going way beyond that. Tech giants want to read our thoughts, and the implications are frightening. Straight out of a science fiction novel, our future might be as cyborgs, and those who don't adapt will lose out. Our minds and computers could become one sooner than we think. Not content with monitoring almost everything you do online, Facebook now wants to read your mind as well. Online. Anyway. The social media giant recently announced a breakthrough in a plan to create a device that reads people's brainwaves. They won't get that off me. Anyway, to allow them to type just by thinking. And Elon Musk they can't make a typewriter that fast in my mind. And Elon Musk wants to go even further. One of the Tesla's bosses, other companies, Neuralink, is developing a brain implant to connect people's minds directly to a computer. Musk admits that he takes inspiration from science fiction and that he wants to make sure humans can keep up with artificial intelligence. He seems to have missed the part of sci-fi that acts as a warning for the implication of the technology. These mind-reading systems could affect our privacy, security, identity, equality, and personal safety. Do we really want all that left to companies with philosophies such as that of Facebook's former mantra, move fast and break things? I mean, this is for real stuff, folks.
Digital Frankenstein land.
Yeah, really. Mark of the Beast. Workers in Wisconsin wear I Got Chip t-shirts celebrating new implants. Employees at 3 Square Market in River Falls, Wisconsin actually celebrated wearing I Got Chip t-shirts after they were implanted with microchips by their bosses.
Must have been all vegetarians.
The microchips are the size of a grain of rice, and they were embedded into the hands of employees for the 3 Square Market, a vending company that makes kiosks to dispense food and beverages. It was done supposedly for the purposes of convenience, of course. And employees' hands can now be read to verify their identity. Boy, does that sound like something in the Bible?
In the right hand, in the forehead.
3 Square Market Chief Operating Officer Patrick McMullen dismisses any concerns. It's just going to be in the state field. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Dismisses any concern that microchipping his employees is akin to Big Brother. Now, you never think that, would you? Mm-hmm. He told detractors to take your cell phone and throw it away to defend his invasive practice. Biohack Sweden produced their microchips, and they have thousands of people implanted with their technology throughout Europe. They hope to expand their businesses across the pond, and 3 Square Market is happy to help them do so as a modern dystopia continues to take shape. I scanned my hand and hid my driver's license information, Westby said, holding up his phone to astonished reporters. Look what I can do.
How long's it been since Jamie worked at Walmart, Beckley?
Oh my gosh,
That was before he was married.
20 years? I don't know.
Oh, probably 30. And they had over there, he said in the back break room, they had several of hand scanners. Yeah, they weren't using it, but they had.
Ninth Circuit Court. Taxpayers must pay for sex offenders' gender reassignment surgery.
Oh,
Oh my God. Where's that?
That's in California. I mean Idaho. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which is really what word can I use, Bill? A bastion of idiots.
that's one out of California, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruled that Idaho taxpayers must provide gender reassignment surgery for transgender prison inmates, including convicted sex offenders. Doesn't that make you feel proud to be an American?
I'll bet when Thomas Jefferson said it's a crime to make you pay for something you don't believe in, that he never thought of anything like this.
No, he couldn't. No way. No way. Doesn't make you want to stand up and salute the flag, doesn't pledge allegiance to it?
Well, what we tolerate today, we embrace tomorrow. The problem is we've already embraced it.
We have. The Idaho Statesman reports the ruling stems from a lawsuit filed by Adri Emo, a biological male who identifies as a female. 31-year-old is serving a sentence for sexually abusing a child under the age of 16 years old. Now, that shouldn't be a crime anyway, should it? Emo sued the Idaho Department of Corrections and its medical provider, alleging the state's refusal to provide gender reassignment surgery was cruel and unusual punishment. So he won.
You ought to do them like we do a deer. If
You
we're
know-
confused about what sex they are, we can just gut them like a deer, then there ain't no confusion.
There you go. Exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
take him to a rock party. But even if he changes his sex, he's still a predator.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't matter. He's still a predator.
No one changes their sex.
No, you can't change
Yeah,
it.
well, if he thinks he can change it, he's still a predator.
Governor Brad Little said he's going to take it to the Supreme Court, and good for him. A video come out. This folks, I'm not making this up. This is for real stuff. I don't know what to say. The name of the film is "Why Don't We Murder More White People?" Film aired at taxpayer-funded museum in San Francisco. Am I telling the truth,
Does
Bill?
that surprise you?
No. A short video titled "Why Don't We Murder More White People" recently aired as part of an exhibit at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts from July 23rd until August 25th, which by my calculation is exactly 33 days too long. Jonathan Garcia, the video's creator, insists on calling it a film, apparently because it's black and white scenes, somber music, lazy symbolism, and pretentious garbage that only woke people pretend to understand. This is being aired in a public venue, paid for by taxpayers, of why don't we kill more white people? Why don't we make one want to kill more black people?
It'd be see you later.
It'd be hate crime.
Think about why don't we make one want to kill more sodomites?
No, that would be a good idea.
You know, I mean, listen, folks. I'm not. Listen, this is for real stuff. I'm supposed to sit there and like it. Boys, I'm one of the nicest guys in the world. Ask my wife. I ain't beat her in a month. I really, seriously, folks, I don't want any trouble. But you come to my home or somebody in my family and try to do something to us, we will defend ourselves. Is that a fair warning?
Amen.
It's a promise.
No, we got about 7 minutes left. I don't know how to even share this. Newsweek ran a article entitled "Time to Rethink Taboo on Cannibalism."
Cannibalism?
Oh,
Yep.
Since cannibalism is found throughout the animal kingdom, it's because we're all animals, right? And therefore something natural, perhaps it's time for humans to rethink the ultimate taboo against eating human flesh, the Newsweek person proposes in this article on this past Wednesday. Let that sink in. They brought to discussion eating your dead neighbor. Does the church give a hoot in hell? There's nothing necessarily unethical or unreasonable about eating human flesh, declared psychologists Jared Pizzera and Neil McClatchy of Lancaster University. But careful reasoning over the merits of cannibalism is often overridden by our feelings of repulsion and disgust. While not going so far as to recommend cannibalism, saying there is no need to overcome our repulsion for the foreseeable future, the two authors suggest that humans could master their aversion for human flesh if they needed to.
I was told that human flesh tastes like pork.
I won't doubt it. Well, pork and humans are akin in gene-wise.
And I dated this girl that she had old nerves in her thumb, was dead, and she was cooking something, and she was smelling bacon. She was wondering where the hell it was coming from. It was her finger was burning up.
Oh my gosh. Now, now, once you bring up something, it gives it validity. You understand that?
Yep.
It does. You bring up your church of 100 people that we're going to ordain homosexuals, and it loses 99 to 1.
You cross the line.
You cross the line. You do it again, it'll be 98 to 2. You follow what I'm saying? Now let's go beyond that. This is once. Swedish behavioral scientists suggest eating humans to save the planet.
we can eat ourselves to death.
A Swedish behavioral scientist has suggested that it's made necessary to turn to cannibalism and start eating humans in order to save the planet. Appearing on Swedish television to talk about an event based on the food of the future. Now, folks, this is for real discussions. Magnus Söderlund said he would be holding seminars on the necessity of consuming human flesh in order to stop climate change. Does that make anybody mad besides me? Environmentalists blame that the farm industry, for a large part of what they can claim is warming the earth. Of course, cows fart.
And we do too.
According to Sutherland, that's right, got to eat us. According to Sutherland, a potential fix will be the soylent green solution of eating dead bodies instead. Do you see how movies foretell the future? Mm-hmm. He told the host of the show that one of the biggest obstacles to the proposal would be the taboo nature of corpse, and that fact that many would be seen as defiling the deceased. Sutherland also acknowledged that people are slightly conservative when it comes to eating things they are not accustomed to, such as cadavers. The discussion took place accompanied by a graphic of human hands on the end of forks. Another proposal to save the earth which have been promoted by numerous mass media outlets. Environment is only what's somewhat less disgusting, eating bugs. No doubt, anyway, this said no doubt Greta Thunberg and Prince Harry will be the first in line when cockroaches and human flesh is being dished out at the next International Climate Summit.
Well, you can order crickets.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, they just come up somebody capture the fart, and that'd help on the economics and the world health.
We could burn it for heat.
Burn full heat, just
But-
capture the farts.
But I'm not making this stuff up, Bill.
It's a zombie buffet for the living people.
What's your name? The preacher's daughter that turned really perverted and sold to Satan. What's her name? Perry. whatever.
Perry.
That has a song now about eating.
Yes.
Yeah, been eating flesh.
Oh yeah.
Kate Perry.
But now these are why the churches are so great in America today. This is why the church is so powerful and makes much difference. Hope United Church of Christ in Wind Gap elects new pastor. Reverend Dr. Emily B. Hall was elected to the pulpit at Hope UCC Wind Gap on Sunday, July 21st, 2019. She will conduct her first worship service August 18th at 9:30 a.m. Pastor Hall received a Master's of Divinity from the Methodist Theological School in Ohio in 1999 and her doctorate in ministry from Drew University in 2012. Pastor Hall was ordained in 2008 as a Methodist pastor. She began her ministry as a youth and older adult pastor at Jesse Lee Memorial UMC in Richfield, Connecticut in 2000. She served Central Valley UMC in Central Valley, New York from 2002 to 2008 and West Side UMC in Hopatcong, New Jersey from 2010 to 2011. The Hope Church position is half-time. She's also the director of chaplaincy at Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital in Morris Plains, New Jersey. Pastor Emily and her spouse Pamela Fake were married in January 2016. They have 2 dogs, Davy and Goliath, and they enjoy cycling, photography, and traveling. Pamela is an orthopedic nurse at the Hackensack University Medical Center in Hackensack, New Jersey.
That's a mess.
Is it any wonder our nation's going to hell? Because, and I'm saying this very politely, the damned church is 501c3 corporations have destroyed this country.
It's because they don't stand up for anything. But
Southern Baptist Church fully endorses homosexuality.
uh-oh.
Southern Baptist. And by the way, they found out they have abuse in them, child abuse as bad as Catholics. If the Fruit of the Gay Celibate movement led by Gospel Coalition and the Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty movement has accomplished one thing, it's been to move churches closer toward full acceptance and inclusion of homosexuality. While the rhetoric has been focused on same-sex attraction and the non-sinfulness thereof, these institutions have led many to believe they can continue with their homosexual lust and be right with God. What did I read in Romans 6:16? Know ye not that whom you servants shall ye serve, right?
Uh-huh.
From a logical and biblical standpoint, however, then this notion does not hold water, as one cannot argue in favor of lust while saying you cannot act on that lust. To be frank, once you open the floodgates of homosexual inclusion, you get what you're about to see in the video. It shows the video. A Southern Baptist church in Kennesaw, Georgia. Hear me? Georgia.
Stones.
Townview Baptist Church has opened its doors to homosexual membership. During the sermon this past week, the pastor, Jim Conrad, announced the church will no longer disallow membership from open practicing homosexuals. The entire sermon from the formerly conservative church has now embraced the ideology of the Gospel Coalition and has taken it to the logical conclusion.
It's the Georgia Guidestones
Yeah.
in that town.
Also, that's called the Bible Belt. You know, they're supposed to be the conservative branch of this country. Yeah.
I don't know what else I can say.
Belts unbuckled, pants down.
Does anybody see why this nation is shaped in? Who was up here to occupy till we come?
The
To
church.
be watchmen.
And be watchmen. Who was here to make sure justice was brought forth?
The church.
Church.
You know, we're just like the Mormons. The Mormons say don't get involved in government. You know, when I was campaigning for U.S. Senate, this Mormon woman came over. It's Latter-day Saints, same thing.
Yeah.
She was telling me, you know, you shouldn't be. We don't mess with government. You know, let it go.
What about their Prince of the Hour? What was Nick Romney?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
So
I don't understand.
Anyway, we're going to watch a few videos now, folks. Don't y'all go away. And by the way, if you see the number on your screen, you can call us if you like. Number's 304-591-6993. 304-591-6993. You can call us if you want to, anytime, or in the next session to the Bible studies. Back in a little bit.
World War II was the American Empire's greatest victory, as it filled the worldwide leadership void left by the dying British Empire. The Americans eventually entered the war because Britain was defeated due to inept Winston Churchill, who had refused to make peace. As a result, around 80 million people, to include over 416,000 American GIs, died in the war that left Europe much worse off. Everyone lost in World War II except the bankers. American President Franklin Roosevelt exploited Churchill's madness to help his New York banker friends acquire British assets around the world and make huge profits by loaning Britain money to purchase American war materials that enriched American corporations. These facts are never discussed in the United States, and anyone who raises such issues is denounced. Wartime propaganda about the undisputed, quote, good war to defeat evil Nazis led by crazy Hitler remains dogma long after the war. It had faded enough so that in 2008, a book by Patrick Buchanan that questioned this war was allowed. His book, Churchill, Hitler, and the Unnecessary War, How Britain Lost Its Empire and the West Lost the World, provides a radically different view of events. There is no doubt that World War II destroyed much of Europe and killed millions. In addition, it allowed the rapid advancement of communism that left the continent divided and on the brink of yet another war. This is undisputed, yet discussion about the need to fight World War II was not tolerated in the United States or Britain. Patrick Buchanan was not the first prominent figure to reveal truths. British historian David Irving dedicated his life to researching World War II and writing books about what he learned. He documented that Hitler had sent Winston Churchill peace officers several times in 1940, proposing that Germany withdraw from occupied areas, except for traditional German regions that were seized after World War I. Irving explains that Britain was already in poor financial shape in 1940, and Churchill should have accepted this offer. But Churchill was an arrogant, selfish, bumbling, alcoholic psychopath whose actions destroyed Europe and the British Empire. These facts upset Americans and Britons since it contradicts everything they learned from schooling, newspapers, and television. Irving was denounced and harassed for writing about what he uncovered. Here are a couple entertaining clips of Irving speaking about his findings in 1987.
We're fighting for Poland, and very right that we should do so because we did give our word. But Poland vanished by the end of 1939. It vanished without trace, invaded not only by the Nazis but by our friends the Soviet Union. From 1939 onwards, nobody is talking anymore about saving Poland. In fact, in 1945, Poland was far worse off than it had been at the end of 1939. And there was no talk of Britain any longer continuing the war on Poland's behalf. When Churchill came to power, the war aim became magically changed. We were fighting not because of Poland, that was no longer mentioned. We were fighting to protect the British Empire. And of course, in December 1941, that war aim was abandoned because you're not going to get Roosevelt to fight with the Americans on behalf of the British Empire. So mysteriously, the aim was changed. We were now fighting in order to defeat the devil incarnate. And when you are fighting Beelzebub, when you're fighting the Satan, when you're fighting the devil, of course you have to commit yourself. You have to invest every single ounce of strength you've got, even if it means destroying your own empire, killing millions of... If the war had ended in June 1940, ladies and gentlemen, as I maintain it should, and I'll explain why in a minute. If we had got out of the war in June 1940, as we could have done, on the most generous terms, if the war had ended in June 1940, 20, 30 million people would not have been killed who were killed in the remaining 5 years of the war. All Europe's cities which were damaged and bombed and blasted and burned and devastated and ruined in the ensuing 5 years of war would not have been damaged. And of course, the Holocaust wouldn't have happened, whatever it was. I'm not going to go into what the Holocaust was or wasn't because I'm not an expert on that, but I can tell you that whatever it was or wasn't, it wouldn't have happened if the war had ended in June 1940. But Winston Churchill wanted the war to continue. Winston Churchill wanted the war to continue, and I'll explain why in a second, and so he fought on for another 5 years, getting deeper and deeper and deeper into debt in the process, until finally he crawled from the courtroom of history on his hands and knees, but with his hand up and saying, "We have won. We have won," when in fact the truth was that the British had lost. If you want to look for the people who were responsible for the Holocaust, and I give this advice to Mr. Simon Wiesenthal himself, You don't have to look further than the bronze statue in Westminster in Parliament Square where Winston Churchill is standing at this moment, because he bears at least a partial share of the blame for the tragedy that befell the Jews in Europe, because Churchill fought the war 5 years longer than was necessary and provided the smokescreen behind which the tragedy could occur. But of course people don't like to think that. That is lateral thinking. That is climbing out of the rut. You will not get good marks on your term paper if you write things like that. And that's why you sit here to hear this rather than read the books of the academic historians. Because the academic historians don't do the research. They can't think for themselves. William Manchester, even, when he writes a book about Churchill as he is at this moment, he goes to a bookshop and he buys 20 books about Churchill and he writes number 21. John Toland, when he writes about Hitler, he can't read German. John Toland borrows 30 books about Hitler and writes book 31. You won't find new thoughts there. They're all just quoting each other. Why do I say that we could have got out of the war in June 1940? People are going to say, and I'm sure fewer people in this room than outside in the street in Toronto would say, Irving, how can you spout such rubbish and nonsense and heresy, getting out of the war in June 1940 after Britain's streets were a sea of flames, after you were fighting the devil incarnate? You had to do it. There was no choice. The British Empire was at stake. Well, the answer is Britain's streets weren't a sea of flames. Hitler had, in fact, flatly forbidden any kind of air raids on Britain. There were no bombing raids on British towns. London was completely embargoed until the summer of 1940. But of course history now is viewed differently through the lenses of the television media of the world. Not one bomb fell on a British town, civilian target, until August 1940, until in fact September the 6th, 1940, when the first air raids took place on London in retaliation for 8 raids by Churchill on Berlin. That is the first truth. The second truth, the ugliest truth of all, is, as we find in the archives when we read them, that nowhere is there the slightest evidence that Adolf Hitler threatened Britain or the British Empire. Quite the contrary. He made a peace offer to the British in June 1940. Again in July, he had been hinting at it ever since the 1930s, and he repeated this peace offer right through until 1941, 1942. Rudolf Hess, who flew to Scotland in 1941, brought the peace offer in his pocket, which is why Hess is to this day still in prison, 92 years old in Spandau, incommunicado, 25 years in solitary confinement. Not allowed to speak to anybody, allowed to visit once a month from his son to talk about family matters, forbidden to talk about politics, because Hess knows the truth about the peace offer which we turned down in 1940. The peace offer to the British Empire, which Hitler made in June 1940, was as follows. I will withdraw all German forces from everywhere in Europe, except for the provinces which had always been German and which had been taken away from Germany at the end of the First World War. He didn't want any part of Poland or Czechoslovakia or Norway or France, except what had always been German. It was the great German dream. And as for France and Britain, although we had damaged Germany a great deal with our declaration of war and the hostilities since then, he offered to the British in this peace offer, which is in the British files, if you go to the archives now, and it's in the German files, of course, he offered to the British the following terms. I have the greatest admiration for Britain and the British Empire. I want the British Empire to survive in perpetuity and grow larger and larger. If the British Empire should at any time in my lifetime, Hitler's lifetime, be threatened by any outside force, including the Japanese, the Russians, the Soviet Union, who were Hitler's own allies, I guarantee that I will provide to the British whatever forces they may ask for to help to throw these aggressors out of the British Empire. That man was our enemy. This was the man we were taught to defend our empire from. And yet we read the secret American papers and we see Roosevelt in his cabinet meetings talking to his cabinet members, people like the Secretary of the Interior, Henry F. Ickes, and saying, my great ambition in life is to see the destruction of the British Empire, beginning with India. That man was our ally. Now it begins to get rather confused, doesn't it? When you see why we were fighting the one and taking the alliance of the other, why we were selling up the empire in order to provide the money to buy the guns, the tanks, the ships, the bombs, the bullets, the gallons of gasoline from the Americans, because believe me, they didn't give us one single bullet or gallon of gasoline except that we paid up front for it in cash or kind. I mentioned the battleship to you that Roosevelt sent down to Simonstown to pick up our last cash reserves. When that money ran out, Roosevelt sent Henry Morgenthau's treasury agents around the British bank accounts in Wall Street and elsewhere around the world, sniffing and snooping and snuffling to find out where Britain still had a few odd coppers left. Because as he told his own cabinet, I'm going to get every penny out of the British that I can. This was in the early part of 1941. All this altruistic idealism that we're told about now, how the Americans saved civilization and liberty and freedom, what Churchill himself called this unsordid act, was in fact the most sordid act that we from the British standpoint can imagine in history. Roosevelt made us give up everything we had before he came to help us. He made us buy the garden hose to put out the famous fire that he talked about in Natives Beaches. When he found that we had no money left, he then said to Henry Morgenthau, the British now have to liquidate every asset they have. And it started off with the sale of the Viscose Corporation in 1941, owned by the British in the United States, a big chemical combine, the Viscose Corporation, worth nearly 100 million pounds, knocked down for 39 million pounds to the Morgan Bank in New York, an American bank. They bought it dirt cheap. And so it went on. The Venezuelan railroads, the oil fields, the coal mines, everything that the British Empire had established and built up and created by investment and hard work, blood, sweat and toil, if you like, overseas in the previous 300 or 400 years, we had to sell off in order to raise the funds. And the Americans provided the funds, weren't they kind? You know how it is with a neighbor. You know how it is with a neighbor down the street. Everyone hears he's on hard times. Bankruptcy staring him in the face, but just before he's bankrupted, all the friends and neighbors club round and help him. And one of the neighbors offers him $50 for his Steinway grand piano. And another neighbor offers him $10 for his color stereo TV, and so it goes on. They all help him. Why in God's name didn't he go ahead and do the morally courageous thing, which was to realize that the war was a lost concern, and that by fighting it any longer we couldn't help Poland, but we would damage the British Empire, which on balance was far more important for the future of the world than what happened to Poland, which really was no concern of ours. And why, you may ask, did Churchill not continue and make peace on that day or the next? Well, the answer is that over the next 2 or 3 days you find Churchill considering doing a peace deal with Hitler, with that man, again on June the 23rd, June the 26th, and again on a few days in July. But on each occasion, of course, he's gone home to his bunker in Downing Street under 17 feet of concrete. He's gone home to his bunker and he's slapped himself on the head and he's said to himself, my God, what am I saying? I must be out of my mind. If we make peace with Hitler tomorrow, then I am finished the day after. Winston Churchill would never have been retained as Prime Minister by the British, and Winston Churchill in June 1940 was a man who had only disasters to his name. The Dardanelles conflict, Gallipoli, my father fought in Gallipoli aboard a British Navy battleship, that fiasco, the Chanak crisis of 1927, the Norway fiasco of 1940, in which Churchill himself as First Lord of the Admiralty was responsible by his bungling, which I won't describe here, but by his immense bungling. Drunken meetings of the Admiralty will have played their part. Churchill was responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of British and French and Polish troops in the Narvik campaign of 1940. And of course by June 1940 he had seen France completely overrun in a few weeks by Hitler, and he himself had masterminded the bungling, disgraceful debacle of Dunkirk. And I could justify those adjectives too, but of course we're running out of time. The war
I am the chosen one. China's made $500 billion. $500 billion. Ripped it out of the United States. And not only that, if you take a look, intellectual property theft, add that to it. And add a lot of other things to it. So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning.